Hello and welcome to the special election edition of ET Now Startup Central. We are coming to you from the K-Tech Innovation Hub here in Bangalore, which is really powered by NASSCOM. A lot of interesting startups here who are trying to solve some interesting problems. But well, it is election season and we've been discussing so much more about what political parties are pitching to startups. Remember, for the first time we have seen both the BJP and the Congress woo startups in their manifesto, from collateral-free credit to a fund of funds to a blanket pass for startups. So much more that political parties have offered to startups. But away from all of that, I'm joined in by a bunch of entrepreneurs who are building businesses on the ground. So what do they make of the government's push? How much of a success has Startup India been? What more should the coming government do to address their woes? Let's listen into them. Interesting bunch of entrepreneurs joining us. Thank you all so much for taking out the time and joining us on ET Now. Coming to you firstly, as an entrepreneur, are you happy that finally, political parties are talking about startups? We saw Rahul Gandhi meet startups here in Bangalore wanting to address. So finally, the government is willing to listen to this community?
I'm Nupur. I'm one of the co-founders of NERA. NERA is a consumer finance company that offers small loans to low-income employees. So to answer your question, yes, I'm certainly very happy that startups are starting to occupy the mental space of our politicians. So India as a country is going through a pretty interesting phase in its growth journey, and startups undoubtedly are going to be a key denominator for the progress to follow in the coming years. So certainly very excited about that. I think what could be done more is in the way of pairing good intentions with good implementations. We have seen cases in the past where good government policies and initiatives
have just remained on the paper.
Got down in bureaucracy. Certainly more could be done here. Maybe government could partner with private organizations to bridge the gap in the execution that traditionally has remained. Other thing I would say is beyond helping startups set up, more could be done in the way of enabling failing as well, because that's the reality of
down.
Yeah. So I've heard that it's still extremely hard to shut the company down. Asking for a friend, certainly.
But coming to you, the entire issue of red tape, of getting those permits when you're starting up, has that gotten better? I know we are in Karnataka. Here the government has been pretty proactive, but largely there's a lot more that has to be done to curtail red tape and make it easier for startups to get those permits in time, because a lot of time is really involved.
Okay, my name is Sunil Kumar. I'm the founder of Jukebox. I want to say that in the last 5 years, there has a lot of development as far as startup is concerned, right? Government also has put in a lot of effort in order to catch up with what is happening. The startup is growing at a pace I don't think government is catching up on. I think that they need to work on, right? So I would like to share my own personal experience when I try to communicate with people from the government. So not many understand the kind of space that we come from, right? Which means that, see, we cannot expect them to grow up, realize what exactly we're trying to do, and then try to help us. By then, it'll be too late. We just want them to be a little more, proactive in terms of reaching out to us, even wanting to listen to what we are trying to say, or even what we are trying to build, the kind of problem what we are trying to solve. If they do not even understand what the problem is, how are they even going to help us solve the problem?
So right? Regulations have to keep pace with innovation on the ground.
Yes, and also I think it is very important for them to be more approachable than they are at this point in time. We do understand that there are more startups which are coming up every day. But having said that, they have to do something in order to be more approachable. I think if you also look at the Karnataka startup office as such, we have tried to get in touch with them. It is a pain for us to get through to somebody in the office, right? If sometimes we just want to sit for like 15 minutes with the right individual who understand what exactly.
And get things cleared.
See, the biggest challenge is most of the startups what we're trying to build is more advanced, right? And the kind of people we see in the office, I don't think all of them are equipped. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but it can be better.
They have to pace it up and
Exactly.
ensure that you're
Yes.
talking to the right people
You're right.
at the right time. Anything that you want to add? The sense that I get from entrepreneurs is there is no better time to start up or a bad time to start up. The struggles remain the same. The difficulties you encounter remain the same. But is it also about the government not doing something? There has to be a line at where the government crosses and does not interfere with the business and startups.
So I'm Kirti. I'm the founder of Get by Analytics Private Limited. We are into digital invoices, which is a product which also helps environment. Okay, and I truly expect the government to support this product because it not only helps the environment but also is very cost effective for small merchants. Yes, my expectations from government is in terms of information dissemination. Right now there is so much of information. As like couple of minutes back we were discussing about some new schemes being launched, new loans and collateral free loans, especially for women, being launched. Where is the information available? I am not aware
So
of
apart from
all those things.
implementation, they have to also
Yes.
ensure that all of this is readily available for you people to process.
Right. And information could be available in the websites. However, when you actually want to go and apply for those loans or for those funds which are available, which the government claims that they are available, it really is not the reality, as you just now mentioned.
So a lot more clarity. While all of this sounds good I'll come back to you in a while. All of this sounds good. You want a lot more clarity and the precision of it coming down. She brought an interesting point. You all have products you're building, some of which the government can make do. So I'll come to you also in terms of, can government be your customer and how easy it is to ensure that government is your customer?
Sure. Thanks. My name is Sachin. I am a founder of WebMobi. We are an all-in-one event management software platform. For us, government can be a very big customer. We can deploy our event software with the government. The challenge is finding the right person. Who is the right person? Government does hundreds of events every year. Each state has their own events team. But for us, the challenge is how do you find the right contact person? What is the number? Is there a e-tendering process where we can log in and see, okay, this is the new tender that is coming out for this requirement, and we can apply there. That will be a huge killer for startups like us, and we can see the scale coming from the government. So that is, I think, one of the big challenges, finding the right information, having more information online, finding the right contact person. That can be a lead for us, right? So we'll then reach out to that person, and then we can have the appointment.
That would really make life easy. We were discussing even before we started this fund of funds, 20,000 seed fund seems great, all right. But the last fund that the government announced of 10,000 crores, barely 30% of it has actually been dispersed. So is the challenge also about implementation? All four of them have raised a concern that all this is great, but has to sort of be backed with implementation. That's something that you really look forward to.
Sure. So my name is Sujata, and I am a founder for a startup called Headway.ai. So we are a talent tech company. So we combine AI and behavioral science to really power talent readiness in enterprises and in people. So we can potentially power the government's employment exchange to really keep people reskilled for life and keep extending their runway of employability. So that's the kind of opportunity that the government actually has of mining ecosystems like these startup ecosystems. So coming to your point about utilization of the funds and implementation and so on and so forth, I would so urge the government to really don an entrepreneurial kind of an approach, work like the VC community, okay, use technology, okay, to really mine the information that exists out there of people like us, companies like us.
There's so much of data out there.
There's so much of data out there.
There's a data explosion.
Absolutely. All they have to do is to really kind of, spawn, maybe, seed a startup which can actually do that intelligence for them. Okay. So that's one. A second thing is, there's so much money out there which people keep talking about. Just be proactive. Use channels such as these, the NASCOM, the KTech, and so on and so forth, and give us a more direct access to those funds, like she very correctly said, make access to funds very, very easy.
And simple. If you intend to give it, make it simple.
Easy. If you intend to give it, just give it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're really not mining the talent that you have out here. And the third is this whole over-regulation of this sector is absolutely not required. You have to release time for the startups to actually focus on making their startup successful versus filling up forms. You know, the kind of forms that we have to fill up for submission of taxes and so on and so forth is completely useless. It doesn't add any value to the government, neither does it add any value to us. So, you know, those kinds of regulations have really got to be relaxed.
You want to add something to it?
Sure. I would just second a bunch of points. They're really fantastic points. However, when it comes to these large funds that the government sort of pledges for startups, we understand that the government has a responsibility here to spend taxpayers' money responsibly. But at the same time, the government is trying to invest in a very uncertain sector. The purse strings need to be loosened, but also adopting this mindset of the government becoming a VC. A VC understands that once you've given that money to a startup, you need to be able to give them the freedom.
Yeah, all you're asking is make it a lot more clear in terms of this is what the checklist is and this is how that it really works.
It is more about the expectations, right? If you set the expectations right at the start, then people are clear, right? Right now there are no expectations. So if you don't have simple things, right? Today, even in regulated sectors, the laws have not been rewritten, right? The world has moved beyond, right? Simple things where we are far behind in terms of regulations. And then these are the same regulations which are then exploited by people and then works against a company or its business model for that matter. Because and these regulations were written like maybe a decade ago. So it has to catch up with that. My name is Ruchir. I run an insurance distribution startup called software startup called GoPlanner, and we basically enable 2.7 million insurance agents along with insurance companies to optimize and make them more productive, which sort of ensure that they can sell more. But even to get our product out there are we have to go through a bunch of regulatory requirements and require certain things.
And insurance, considering it's such a complicated space to be in. You want to add in, sir? I'll come to you after this.
See, I want to make 2 points here. The point one being, I was reading one of the articles which very clearly says, government is, they want to be very conservative in terms of releasing the funds to make sure it doesn't go to the wrong hands. Right? So we understand that point. And also, if you look at any of the government website, I doubt that there is data available where which company they have released the money to, right? And they make sure that it's all going to be transparent. Right? For example, if I'm Jukebox, the government is funding money on my company, there should be my company profile on the website. Let the world see it.
For anyone to see, okay, this is what works and this is what
let the world see it,
interest.
right? If they have to even monitor it even further, they can also probably have the information on the website as to where the money is being spent. Could be salary, could be XYZ, right? If we want to find ways, we can. But are they even talking to the right people to find solution? Or, the first thing is they need to stop doing such deals behind doors, behind closed doors.
Make it open for everyone to see.
Yes, and make sure that people see it. As you rightly, another point is, if you go to the website, especially the patent claims, it very clearly says subject to availability of funds, right? And who knows how much funds have been allocated, how much funds available. Based on that, for us to even go and file a patent. For example, I want to file patent in India and in the US as well, right? If they are saying that they're going to reimburse the money, I have no clarity whether I can even claim the money back or no.
So you want to add to this, and then I want to broaden the discussion on other aspects.
So my name is Sundar. I'm a founder of UP Care Health, which specializes in extending specialist care to people at home with serious illnesses. The point that I want to bring about, 2 points. One is on how can government be a customer. Actually, practically all the startups that I see, including mine, the government can benefit a lot by improving its own efficiency of reaching out to people. That's point number one. For example, the CGHS scheme that's there, one can easily absorb all this and deliver that. And that is a long bureaucratic process. We are told that it takes 6 months to 1 year, especially if you're a startup and not a registered healthcare unit. The second point that I wanted to bring in, which has not been brought up so far, is more on the appreciation side, that there is a lot of effort in bringing in academics to work close with startups and to help them out. where the translational research also comes into place. I think that's a good thing that has not been mentioned, so I just thought I will bring it up. We are also working with some of the institutes and trying to really leapfrog into the future, and that kind of a facilitation is something very laudable from the government side, and they should just go on with it.
Yeah, I think we should also give due to the government on where they have sort of achieved in terms of putting startups on the roadmap. The Startup India mission itself, the reason that we've been talking so much about it over the last 3-4 years is because the government has made this a mainstream topic.
Yeah, thanks. So, hi everyone. My name is Ashok, and I represent a company called Wealth Status. I'm one of the co-founders. So, we essentially are trying to solve a problem, something called as unclaimed money. So, we are trying to be in data analytics on top of whatever unclaimed money is lying with various financial institutions. So, I think fellow panelists have kind of summarized it pretty well. What are the key challenges? Few of them maybe I can highlight. I would like to highlight the technology point of view. So, for example, from the regulators, like if you talk about SEBI has a very good technology platform. But if you compare the same with other regulators like EPFO, if you talk about Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they don't have. Now it becomes very tough for a startup like us who want to work with government bodies, but since they doesn't have a technology platform, so we have to wait for a while, there is no clarity like how long it will take for them itself to come back and raise a certain platform. So I think that's one of the other just point I want to highlight.
Got it. Anything that you want to add in terms of the focus, also the fact that startups are an engine of job creation? Let's accept it. Formally, informally, there's so much that startups have done to create. So that's the reason why the community also deserves its due.
Yeah. So one key thing which I'd like to highlight is that working with regulators is very difficult. Like you can work with your customers, but like regulators directly don't engage with you. Like if you look at RBI or like I work in a fintech space, so RBI or the key regulators don't engage with you. If the regulators start engaging, many of these policies can be streamlined a lot. The other aspect is moving of funds. So you can easily get money inside India or outside India. So sending funds from India is a very difficult problem today. So if you have a multi-country office, branches in 2 different countries, it's a very difficult pain process. However, if you were to establish a company in US and then open up a branch office in India, it's a very streamlined process.
That's why you see a lot of this Indian startups domiciled out of Singapore, right? That the government has realized that there are pain points that they have to address in terms of the ease. You want to add?
Yeah, so moving funds should be relatively easy. It should be a digital only process. Today banks ask us tons of documents. It needs to be a big filing process, a month-long process. It can be streamlined a lot. Regulators is another place where if regulators starts engaging with startups like this Niti Aayog, so Niti Aayog does it, but there's no visibility who is invited to Niti Aayog.
Got it. A lot more clarity in terms of how they engage. One thing interesting topic that I want to bring up is in terms of engaging with the government. There's so much of data that the government has. Of course, there's only so much they can share. But are they willing to? You said you work with a state government yourself. How has that experience been?
So it was fantastic actually, because the person who ran that accelerator did not come, was appointed specifically and came from a corporate world and really wanted to show something. And in fact, I would say like earlier it was difficult to talk to the regulator. At least now they've sort of helped us start a conversation. I don't know what the end will be, but it is at least a beginning where we were able to speak to a few people, give our suggestions, created a paper and sent it out over an email, and we know that someone in the regulatory body got it. And then
so you're saying let's accept it, the government is willing, but there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot more, right? Typically we'll expect a response in a week's time, but I don't think so you will get a reply in a month's time. That is where the difference is. But at the end of the day, for a startup, time is everything, more valuable than money, frankly. And I just hope
anything
that
saves you time saves you a lot of money.
Yes. So if that is the case, I just hope that they reply in time, and if they ensure that the expectations are truly set, right? Right now, I don't know if I send an email, when can I expect a reply? Simple thing as that, right? If you send an email on a government ID, what is your TAT or turnaround time to get a response back.
Got the sense. We were discussing about the entire issue of angel tax. It took over a year for all these departments to get together, finally arrive at a solution. There's finally a lot of relief that startups. But is that a big lesson? Because the BJP manifesto talks about ranking departments and ministries on the level that they engage with startups. This would really change a lot of things, right, in terms of how ministries view startups itself.
So my name is Oliver Jones, and my business, we make games, which has been in the news recently with Dream 11 becoming...
Yeah, they joined the Unicorn Club.
Yeah, Dream 11 joined the Unicorn Club. So gaming has really made its mark in India, and that's why I'm here. When it comes to startups and how the government treats startups, I think there needs to be... we're starting to see progress here. The government has realized that large corporate entities and startups are two separate kind of entities that need to be treated different. And there are two ways that they can do that. They can, these large funds. But how is the government really defining what a startup is the question here. Who receives these funds? We ourselves, we're the recipient of the Elevate Fund here in Karnataka, which was fantastic. I think currently it's a company which is 3 years since inception. So a clean sheet during that time is another example of how we can, how the government is, again, making it clearer. But at the same time, there's a lot of uncertainty. Angel tax is still a very murky area. We're not sure who it applies to, when it applies.
I'll have to quickly get closing comments before you close in terms of how the broad takeaways are. Yeah.
Sure. So in broad terms, I would say large strides have been made. These manifestos are a great step in the right direction by both parties, by all parties. However, still there needs to be some steps towards clarity.
In terms of, that's one big takeaway. Okay, let's talk about VCs and money. We haven't seen a lot of, anyone who wants to add, we haven't seen a lot of our Indian business houses open up their purse strings. We're so heavily reliant for businesses who don't need funds is fine, but for a capital intensive business, you have to still reach out to a VC and all of that. So is it important to create a local ecosystem that really backs local companies here?
That certainly helps, right? And I'm guessing more and more business families are taking a look, right? With Mahindra and Mahindra investing in Ola, and they are taking a big look at this sector. They themselves know that instead of building something on their own, they might as well invest in someone who's trying to solve the same problem, right? Which they have. Otherwise,
and the Geo Fund now coming up, and
perfect.
So
that's something which we are looking forward to. At least in terms of application and a lot of those things are very clear compared.
Got any closing comments quickly before I end the show? Yeah.
Innovation is something which is big way lacking in our country, and the way startups are working today is to first make themselves make their self-survival possible. Innovation doesn't come that way. We are far from building those robust, really good, sound, solid products. We cannot be compared with developed economies in the current state that we are
so many
now.
Innovative problems, challenging problems that don't exist anywhere.
Innovation has a long way to go right now.
I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I'll take you and end this.
I think another piece that the government has to think about is education. So, startup is a huge piece in India and in this entire segment. So, the curriculum has to be tuned in a manner that it actually helps the startup ecosystem and can create more entrepreneurs from this population. So education is a big driver, and I'm sure the government will have better ideas than we do. If they don't, actually we can manage it for them.
You're saying entrepreneurship as a subject in schools and colleges.
Because education is going to change, completely change.
Absolutely. I'd like to add about the international ecosystem also, which actually helps.
We end up comparing so much with other countries. Really, but there are grounds that you just can't compare, right, in terms of the scale and scope.
Exactly. If we can enable a convergence of ecosystems with Singapore ecosystem or Australia or US, if there's a way for startups like us to engage more effectively with those ecosystems, we can scale up faster. So I think something of that sort also will be very useful for a company.
Get the
like
best
us.
know-how from other ecosystems, and I know there are a lot of hands. I'll probably go to you, sir, and end this. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The legislation has to be ahead of the startups. So today that's a big drag. Even in the field of telehealth, there is no clear legislation that permits telehealth delivery as much as it does abroad. So I think that's an important point that government probably needs to take care.
Thank you all so much for taking out the time. So broad takeaways from this really are that great what political parties want to do, all that fine. Implementation is something that entrepreneurs will track closely. All they've been stressing on is clarity, clarity and more clarity as far as rules that the government intends to make, regulations, and make it a lot more easier for them to start their business, focus on business and not really on red tape. Thank you all so much on that note to have joined us. We'll closely watch what the upcoming government really does in the coming years to boost this ecosystem. Thank you all for joining us.